Welcome to Driven by Dreams. I'm thrilled to welcome today's guest, Angie Schwab, founder and CEO of Trialynx, a clinical research futurist who is imagining how we conduct clinical trials using the power of AI and automation. With over 20 years of experience in clinical trial design, healthcare automation, and tech-driven innovation, Angie is on a mission to make clinical research smarter, faster, and more connected. Let's dive in. Hi, Angie. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me.
So, before we start, I would love to learn a bit more about you. So, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. Just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. If AI had a personality in clinical trials, what would it be like?
And AI in clinical trials, incredibly detail oriented, probably a bit type A. It's the kind that gets really stressed out about a lot of things. But on the other hand, they do a really, really good job. So the focus and attention to detail requires that high level of engagement and enthusiasm. That's how I'd categorize it.
What's one industry buzzword you'd love to retire forever?
Gosh, I don't know. An industry buzzword. Honestly, I don't necessarily think there's a word that I'd want to retire, but I would like a lot more clarification. So people are really confused about the difference between AI and automation and how to properly use both of those tools. So I would just like people to be able to clarify them better when they're using them.
What's a non tech habit you swear by for staying productive?
Decrease your stress. So take a walk. Like this morning, I went for a hike, and even 30 minutes, it's fine. But like every single morning, wake up, get sunshine immediately, drink water, walk, get outside, get fresh air before you start your day. If you just roll out of bed and just start working immediately, your brain is going to be fried within a couple hours. Like it hasn't had the chance to process and wake up yet. And maybe the second thing I would say, again, in the stress and relaxation side, is if you possibly can take a mini nap in the middle of the day. So, mini nap meaning 10 minutes, 30 minutes if you need to. But that mini nap in the middle of the day during your lunchtime or whatever it is for you just to completely decompress is going to absolutely power you through the rest of the day. So, no need to continue stressing yourself out, working, 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 and thinking the harder you work and the more you work is actually going to be better. It's get some rest, come back fully rejuvenated, then continue.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
If you could instantly redesign one part of the traditional clinical trial process, what would it be?
Well, this is exactly what we do is clinical trial development and documentation. So clinical trials, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is that for new drugs and new devices, we want new therapies, right? We want new ways to help people in the world. But they have to undergo this very detailed process of what's called clinical trials. And that usually involves giving the new drug or new therapy to people and then comparing that to the old therapy or maybe a placebo. So it looks like the same thing, but it's nothing. It's like essentially like a sugar pill. And so in the development process of that, you could develop it in a million different ways. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And that's exactly what we're doing with our company is helping people determine how many people should I enroll? How long should this trial take? How many visits should occur? That we're going to get to that data to help us prove, is this new therapy better than the old one? Is it better than nothing? Because many times it's actually not. And that's the entire point of doing clinical trials. So if I could change anything, that's exactly what we're changing is the whole study development process and helping people get through those really difficult first steps as quickly and as thoroughly as possible.
What's one trait you think every great health tech founder needs?
Persistence. Constantly, you'll develop something that you think is amazing. And just because it's amazing to you does not mean it's amazing to the world or doesn't mean it's solving problems in the world. And you have to have a mindset of, I'm here to solve the problem. I'm not here to be in love with my solution. I'm not here to tell everybody why my way is the best way. Your job is to listen to everybody, understand what they need, and try to create a solution that's fit for them. So you have to be flexible and persistent as you're going through that product market fit cycle. And then as you continue through the company, there will always be hiccups and hurdles that you need to overcome. So it's not for the faint of heart at all.
It's not just marketing your product, also being able to listen is important.
Yeah, you have to build it. You have to market it. You have to sell it. You have to, get feedback from the market. You have to think of where the future is going. So there's so many aspects that go into entrepreneurship. And in order to manage each of those, you have to be persistent because it's learning a whole unique skill set for every single one of those.
What's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
I grew up on a farm, literally in the middle of nowhere, outside of a town of 400 people in the middle of Minnesota. So I feel like many times you find, oh, I grew up in San Francisco around lots of other people, or I grew up in Boston or New York. So you have access to these people who are doing amazing, great things, right? Like they're really changing the world. That's where most of these individuals have been. Before COVID, that's where they would congregate, right? Growing up in Minnesota, that's totally different. We have a very different mindset. It's very working class. It's how do we solve problems? How do we get the best and most out of our limited resources that we have? So it's very different mindset there than it is in a larger city. So what I would just love to consider and help everybody understand is it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter. And now you have the opportunity to learn any skill in the world using the web and now using AI. There is really no excuse for not being able to dive in and to learn something if you want to learn it. The sky is the limit right now. I think the doors have all flooded open, and it's going to be a great opportunity for those who are willing to take the initiative. For those who feel like they have to be fed everything, like, hey, do this report, read this chapter, do XYZ, it's going to be a lot harder because you're going to see people excel. The ones who take initiative are going to excel very quickly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Angie. Now I'd love to learn more about your journey. So you mentioned that you grew up on a farm. So where did you get that exposure to entrepreneurship?
It's really interesting. I don't know. As a kid, I just always thought I want to have my own business. And growing up in a small town, there were not that many different jobs, and I didn't want to work on a farm. And I didn't want to do construction. I didn't want to work at the gas station, and I didn't want to work at the bank. There weren't a lot of options, right, that were inspiring to me personally. So I knew that I had to go to college, and this is, many years ago, things have changed, but I had to go to college in order to get out of the town that I was in and to get around those circles that were doing things that I felt really exciting. So as a small town, we'd take trips, right? And you would go to the Twin Cities in Minnesota and you'd see all these huge buildings. I'm like, someone started those companies. And yet I wasn't around those people on a regular basis. It just seemed like such a huge leap for me to say, wow, I know there are people like this that exist. How do I find them? So I think it was just a dream from the beginning. It was a dream that was there, and I just had no idea how to cross the barrier and how to get started.
What inspired the concept behind Trialynx, and how did you first spot that gap in the clinical trial space?
Yeah, well, it's from about 20 years of frustration. So I've been in clinical trials my entire career. It's always my passion of how can we do things better? How can we create better therapies? How can we help people suffer less? Be in less pain and live more happy, fulfilling lives. And the way that I wanted to contribute to that was through research and helping develop these new therapies. The problem is that in order to do this in clinical trials, it requires mountains of paperwork and planning and patients and doctors and everybody coordinating together to gather the data to then go to the FDA, which then would say, I think this is worth being on the shelves or not. All of those mountains of papers were, imagine this, you write a 90-page article, but you did it in a classroom setting. So then you have to email it to everybody. You get their track changes back. Then you have to organize 90 people's track changes back. Then you send out another because they all say, oh, I want to see it after everyone else has their input. Imagine what a nightmare that is. Horrible. It would take months to bring everybody to agreement. And I thought there's just has to be a better way. So the concept behind Trialynx is how do we unite the team on these critical components of your trial? How many patients? What are you looking at? What's the drug or the device? What exactly are you doing? And if we can get the team to align on those critical aspects, now we can use AI and automation to just let the documents write themselves. So you get a first draft of that document out in 15 seconds now. It's a way to unite your team, to write the documents very quickly, let everybody look at the exact same document, comment on the exact same document, so that we get you to starting the trial much faster. So that's where the idea came from. It came from frustration. And many times in entrepreneurship, you'll hear that from people. I lived it. I think there's a better way, and let me try to figure out how to do that.
I know accuracy with AI is a huge problem. How do you make sure, especially for clinical trials, that the document you're getting is accurate?
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's why we use automation for writing the documents more than AI. So AI can help, as what we say is create those base elements. And I'll give you a couple examples. If you say, I'm going to do a drug trial, now you have to figure out things like where are you going to store your drug? Are you going to randomize patients to one drug or another? Are you going to require the drug to be given back at the end of the study? So all of those things someone has to decide on. That's where AI can be creative and kind of answer those questions. It can come in and say, yeah, the drug should be returned at the end of the trial. This will be the time frame to do that. Or yes, it's going to be randomized and we suggest you have 2 different arms that do X, Y, Z. So you can let AI be creative, but that's when you bring in the human element again to verify. Is that really what we want to do? AI suggested it, great, but we all know AI is good at suggesting things, but we need humans to verify. So the humans then verify, and then automation takes that answer and puts it into the right document in the right place. One of the things that most people don't understand about clinical trials is that in an actual trial, it takes 400 to 800 document types. This is not one document that tells you how to do this study. 400 documents that are managed by the drug maker or the device maker, the company who's organizing it, called the clinical research organization usually, and then you have the site, which is where the doctors and the patients are. All of them have to make documents. All of those documents need to align. So in our platform, the way we've tackled it is using automation to put the right piece of information into the right document. That's how we ensure accuracy. And that's the thing that totally sets us apart versus others. As you said, AI can hallucinate, and sure, it could help you write a document faster, wonderful. But what happens when you have to make 400 and you have to make sure those 400 all align? AI, as of right now, cannot do that kind of thing. So you need to have a systematic approach in thinking about how you use automation versus AI. So if you are creating a software platform right now, just think really carefully what can be done using creativity, which is AI, and what can be done that requires that consistency and perfection. That's where you want to focus on automation.
You mentioned that we still need people to verify the documents, right?
Yes.
What if AI manages the creative part? What things do people in clinical trials need to look for when hiring?
Yeah, I see that there's going to be quite a dramatic shift in clinical trials, just like any industry. The next 5 years are going to be incredibly interesting. What it's going to do is AI is going to take those repetitive things, like the copy paste type things, the creating a first draft type things, like that kind of low hanging fruit in essence will be taken care of by AI. In clinical trials, you need the people who have the expertise in the background to say, yes, that's really what we should do, or maybe we should do it another way, because they understand in their 10 years or 20 years of experience focusing on that thing, what actually works in that scenario, what actually works in the real world. AI doesn't know what works in the real world, right? It takes humans to do that. So if I was to recommend how people should go into the industry, it would be to find a niche that you can become kind of the expert at, or one of the experts. And so the niches that are available are like regulatory or compliance or operations, drug development, strategy, those types of things that require you to think outside the box. Take all of the data inputs and say, this is how I think something should be done, and these are the reasons why. It's going to take a lot of reasoning and a lot of strategy as we go forward into this AI initiative and this new AI world that we're entering.
You know, they say it takes thousands and thousands of hours to become an expert in something.
Yes.
You mentioned becoming an expert. How would you recommend doing that, and how can AI help you become better at something?
If I was to be starting in clinical research, I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool. I want to create new drugs or devices. I want to be part of that process of evaluation. I would just sit down and start talking with ChatGPT. Honestly, I'd say, help me understand all the top 20 careers in clinical trials or in drug development, right? Whatever that niche is for you. And they would lay out, here are the top roles. And then I'd say, explain them to me. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? What's the salary ranges? What does the future look like? So I would ask it all those things and have it make a very large table. Then I'd start to dive in and be like, okay, these three sound really cool to me. I really could see that I would love this. So then you take those top three and you start thinking, asking it, what are the skills that I need? What's the education that I need? Where could I get this education? And many times, as you know, there's tons of things on Coursera or these other online platforms that can help give you a taste. I would take the top three things, take 1 or 2 classes in each, and start to understand like what's really cool about each thing or not so cool. That's going to help you whittle it down. So let's say you now get down to 2 things, binge on it. Find everything you can find on YouTube. Talk to ChatGPT. Say, how could I learn this? And then when you feel like you have a pretty strong foundation, you want to actually try it, ask ChatGPT to give you some examples. Pretend that you're an intern and you are going to work in this job. Have them give you exercises to do. And then as soon as that's done, I would actually try to go get an internship in one of these specific roles with human beings. So that's how you get your, 10,000 hours, at least get you 4,000 hours into it and some expertise before you even start as an intern.
Well, thanks for breaking down that process. What are some common misconceptions people have about AI in healthcare or clinical research?
I think the common misconception is thinking that AI can do everything and it's going to solve all the problems. It's really can't. We still have major silos of data, silos of brilliant minds working all different places, and you need systems to bring them together. So, for example, you have medical records at all these different hospitals. In the US, most of these hospitals don't talk to each other. They don't have a central medical record system. So, in order for me to understand how did the patients do with this specific drug, you have to get medical records in different formats from all of these different places. You have to bring them together. That still can be quite manual. And so AI, now there's people who are starting to solve that issue, but you need people who understand the processes to build the AI to do the thing, right? So AI can't solve all the things. You can't just say, ChatGPT, hey, get me medical records on Bonnie Smith at, Memorial Sloan Kettering, right? Like that can't happen. There are firewalls and things in place, thank goodness. So for security reasons. We just got to build the processes. We have to build it using AI in the best way possible, but also ensuring security and validity and compliance at every step.
You mentioned before that the documents have to be reviewed by the FDA. How are they trusting the AI documents?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the FDA, I'm going to separate that into two parts. Okay, so the documents, let's say for example, that are created on Trialynx are actually created with human input every step of the way. Humans are signing off, humans are reviewing, and we actually bake in all the FDA requirements. So it's like, it's easy to forget. You're like, oh, FDA wanted me to add that in, or my hospital needed me to add this into a document. We kind of take that confusion out of it by baking in those types of things into the document. So we actually make it more compliant than it is just trying to rely on your memory to do everything. That's really hard lift to do. So you've got that one component. So the development of the documents still looks like a human did it because a human's very much involved in doing it. It's just faster. Okay. Now you have FDA actually uploading these documents, analyzing them, and giving their reviewers insights into, does this drug look like it's going to be a good fit or not? I can't tell you how accurately that works or not. I haven't seen it. I haven't been involved on that side yet, but it's not an easy task. And I know they've been trying it and they've been testing it. I would love to see how good it is at extracting that information and compiling what they need to make an educated decision. But it's on two sides. It's one is how do we develop it, and then number two is using AI to read it after the fact. There are entire industry initiatives that are trying to do this, of saying, hey, so if you think about it, right, we have data elements like how many patients, what's the drug, what are we trying to solve, like cardiology, like a heart disease or something, right? You have those data elements, but because we're humans, we need to read it in a piece of paper, okay? Then humans have to receive that piece of paper to understand it to make their decisions. The future is that you're just going to have data talking to data. You don't need humans to write documents, to read documents, to put it in another database. These databases will all just talk together in the future. All of those processes and systems need to be built. But that is the goal, is that everything will be very much streamlined and connected, so you're not having this copy-paste issues, manual data entry, which can cause a lot of errors and issues.
I know you already talked about this a bit, but what are some other things you're expecting in the future, 5-10 years later? How will AI and automation in new inventions change clinical trials?
I don't think anybody knows. It's going to be very, very different life for all of us within 5 to 10 years. It will be, and I don't even think it's just clinical trials. It's the entire world is changing so fast that we cannot even predict. You cannot put the, as they say, cat back in the bag. Like, it's out and it's running and it's doing its thing. Instead of making a prediction, I will say as humans, the things that we need to do is prepare ourselves. And the way you prepare yourself is by being flexible and being of service to others. So recognizing, yes, technology is going to take over a lot of the jobs that are being done today, but there will always be needs for humans. Humans to help other humans, humans to build processes, humans to, make critical decisions. So stay flexible. The idea of, I'm going to go into a career, I'm going to read these books, and then I'm going to have a job that is going to make me do ABC during a day, that's not going to happen anymore. So you have to be incredibly flexible. And when someone says, I need help with X, that's your cue. Let me be of service. Let me use my brain, my mind, resources, money, if you have that, in order to solve problems and to help other individuals.
Well, thank you so much, Angie. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. So before we wrap this up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience?
Oh, I think that kind of was the final words of wisdom, is stay flexible, try to relax, don't get too anxious about the future, because the future is going to come no matter what. And things are going to challenge you in ways that you can't expect over the next 5 to 10 years. But no, none of us can predict them. We're all in this together. We're all learning a new world. We're all participating in building that new world. So stay flexible, relax, and try to just enjoy life. Go for a walk, go for a hike, enjoy sun, fresh air, the planet. Be good to other people, animals, and earth. And everything will be fine. It will work out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Angie, and sharing your journey. It was incredible.
Sure. It was very, very nice to meet you, and I hope this brings at least a little kernel of advice for the folks out there.